Poem analysis: A Dream Within a Dream. A Dream Within a Dream was written in March of 1849, a few months before his death. This poem focuses a lot on the uncertainty of reality and gives off the feeling of worry and doubt. This is a reflection of Poe's life because he battled depression, turning towards gambling, alcohol, and drugs. The poem begins by departing with a loved one, which connects to the passing of his wife Virginia 2 years prior. This gives the first stanza a more sorrowful tone. However, in the second stanza, it switches to a tone of hopelessness as the person starts to question their reality. The poem reads, "Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus let me avow. You were not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away, in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep. While I weep, while I weep. O God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream?" This poem is made up of two stanzas, the first with 11 lines and the second with 13. It has an irregular syllable pattern switching between 6 or 7 with the exception of line 11, which has 8. Throughout this poem, there are rhyming couplets with one rhyming triplet in each stanza, appearing in different places. In the first are in lines 1 to 3, that are brow, now, and a vow, and in the second, lines 17 to 19, creep, deep, and weep. The meter for this poem contains both iambic and inapestic trimeters, following the pattern of the unstressed stress or unstressed unstressed stress. Iambic can be seen in line 16, how few, yet how they creep, with emphasis on words few, how, and creep. Inapestic can be seen on the line 1, take this kiss upon the brow, with emphasis on the words kiss and brow. Within this poem, there are many irregular patterns and shifts throughout, giving it a more dreamy and unpredictable aspect. Poem analysis: A Dream Within a Dream, stanza 1. The first stanza begins with a kiss and possible lovers departing. There is no actual context or background to what is being said in this first line. However, I interpret it as a final goodbye to someone on their deathbed, as Poe had experienced many deaths in his family, including his biological parents, his foster mom, and wife Virginia. It begins with lots of emotion and a sense of urgency, as the first line ends with an exclamation point. This gives the reader a feeling of desperation or sadness as the speaker is doing his farewell. Within this first line, imagery can be seen using the sense of touch. The kiss on the brow means a kiss on the forehead. I think Poe used imagery in the opening line to help readers envision the poem better, which would result in them having a better and deeper understanding of it. In line 3, it says, "Thus let me avow." The speaker is telling his lover he has something to confess before they must depart, as they will likely never see each other again. The speaker has one last thing to get off his chest before he leaves, relating back to what I said earlier, like a final goodbye. This shows enjambment as you get a brief pause to think about what is being confessed. The following lines, from 4 to 5, the speaker is telling their lover that they were not wrong to think he has been living in a dream. This can mean two things, one in a positive sense or one in a negative. His days in a dream could be that his relationship with the lover never really existed. He's been delusional, and it was all made up in his own head. Or it could be that the love for each other was so great it was fantasy-like. This is seen as a metaphor because the dream is referring to the sense that the man has been living in a false reality or his own fantasy. Within these lines, you can also see alliteration with the words theme, days, and dream, all starting with the letter D. Continuing on to lines 6 to 9, the speaker begins to question his own sense of reality with what is real and what is not. He expresses feeling of lost hope and begins to think if he really is living in an illusion. This is seen in line 6 with personification and a metaphor. In terms of personification, hope has been given the quality of flight and is flying away from him. In terms of a metaphor, he is saying he has lost all hope as it has left him. The following lines, 7 and 8, show both imagery and parallelism. He is connecting our sense of sight as he wants us to imagine the night, day, and vision. Then he repeatedly uses the words in a, then replacing the word that comes next with something different each time for parallelism. In line 9, he then asks a rhetorical question. Is it therefore the less gone? Meaning he really has lost all hope, and he has lost a sense of what is real and what's not. In the final lines of this stanza, he comes to the conclusion that everything he has experienced in his life has been a lie. It was an illusion, or as Poe says, a dream. This idea is greatly intensified because Poe doesn't just say a dream. He says a dream within a dream, meaning that it is something far greater than we will ever know or have control over. Poem analysis, stanza 2. The second slide begins with the speaker on the shore of an ocean. Although unclear to where the speaker is in the first stanza, it quickly transitions into something else without any context of how the speaker really got there. This gives the poem a feeling of being unpredictable, going back to what I said earlier, giving it an atmosphere of a dream. I think he specifically chose an ocean because it symbolizes mystery and being boundless. This connects to the poem because dreams can go on forever and be difficult to understand. The opening line of stanza 12 and 13 show both personification and imagery. It personifies the sound of clashing waves as a roar and gives us the image of waves crashing onto the shore. This is seen as a metaphor for pain and suffering because the waves are hurting the shore, meaning as they are tormenting it. Continuing on to lines 14 and 15, alliteration is seen with hold in hand and the letter H, and then green and golden with the letter G. At this point, the speaker has picked up the grains of the golden sand, which is a metaphor for holding on to time and memories. He is desperately trying to come to terms with a sense of reality, but he cannot. As seen in lines 16 and 17, Poe mentions how the sand just falls out. Sand plays a significant role here because it has no definite shape. As the speaker tries to hold on to the sand and grip it, it becomes nearly impossible as it just falls out. This here can also be seen as an hourglass, as it represents time. The sand is slowly falling out of his hands as he is trying to hold on to it. This shows the speaker trying to get a grasp of time, but he cannot. He is losing it and is falling deeper into his own false reality. The speaker no longer has control of what is going on. On to lines 18 and 21, the speaker then starts to get emotional and talks to God. In line 18, we can see imagery with the sense of sound and sight, as we can see and hear the tears and cries of the speaker as he weeps. This phrase, while I weep, was also repeated twice, showing repetition. He then goes on to ask God why he cannot hold on to the sand and is asking God if he can even just hold one grain of it. This is a metaphor for him asking God why can he not hold on to his memories and then asking him if he can just keep one. At this point, it shows hopelessness once again because he is begging and pleading with God. Within these lines, repetition and parallelism are seen. O God is on line 19 and is repeated again on line 21. Then, and can I not is used on 19 and 21 for parallelism. In the final lines of the stanza, 23 and 24, the speaker repeats what he says at the end of the first stanza, but this time in a rhetorical question. He is going back on what he said previously, but he is now lost. He has no control in life and can no longer tell what is real and what is fake. A Dream Within a Dream, Theme and Meaning. The poem A Dream Within a Dream focuses on one main question. Is the life we are living real or is it all a dream? Within the poem, the speaker questions his own sense of reality, asking himself if the life he has been living was a lie. In the first stanza, he comes to accept that his life was all a dream. However, in the second stanza, he denies this as he desperately tries to get a hold of life and time, which is seen in the metaphor of him trying to hold on to the sand. Ending off with the question of, is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? The meaning behind this is how we perceive our life and how we choose to live it. This is portrayed in the poem because the speaker was caught up in the love in his mind that could have been real or fake that he became lost in the real world. I think this poem connects to Poe because of all the people he lost in his life, more specifically his wife Virginia. I believe that this poem was about him losing his own sense of reality as he would dream of others' lives where he could be with his wife. Where he got so caught up in it, he became lost himself and then eventually died. As Poe did die within a few months after publishing this poem with possible alcohol withdrawal, but no really known reason for his death. A theme and message behind this poem are to be present in life and hold on to the things that are important to us. This is evident in the poem because of the speaker's inability of just being present and accepting life as it is. He's confused and lost in the ways of life, resulting in losing complete control over it. This is an important message because by just simply living in the moment, we'll be happier. We will live for today and not for the past or future, and by doing so, we can live without worries and doubts.
I chose by Edgar Allan Poe was To Helen. So the tone of this poem is admiring somebody. There's 8 syllables per line. Helen, thy beauty is to me. The rhyme scheme in the first stanza is A, B, A, B, B. The rhyme scheme in the second stanza is A, B, A, B, A. And in the third stanza, A, B, B, A, B. The meter used in this poem is iambic tetrameter. Stanza 1 of To Helen. Helen, thy beauty is to me like those Nicean barks of yore, that gently o'er a perfumed sea the weary, wayworn wanderer bore to his own native shore. Right off the bat, Poe uses a metaphor to Helen of Troy instead of talking directly about his friend's mom, Jane Stannard. Next, he uses a simile, the Nicean barks of yore. He's comparing this to the woman, using the word like. Next, he uses a syncope, or, for the word over to shorten the syllables and make the line flow better. Next, he uses imagery as perfumed sea to help the reader picture the pleasant smell of the sea. And lastly, he uses an alliteration, weary, wayworn wanderer, repeating the letter W. The connotative meaning to this stanza. In the first lines of To Helen, the speaker makes it clear that the Helen that he is speaking about is just really a metaphor. This poem was written to a woman named Jane Stannard. Poe's dedication to Jane Stannard, the mother of one of his friends, is symbolized through the admiration that follows Helen of Troy. She was known to be the most beautiful woman of the classical world. She was the face that launched 1,000 ships. By referring to her as Helen rather than Jane, Poe is guaranteeing that readers will immediately know of her importance to him. In the second line, Poe says that Helen reminds him of the boats, or barks, of the classical times, specifically those boats that set sail for victory. Nicean has been interpreted by critics as a nod to Nike, the Greek god of victory. These boats then, and maybe the very ships that were launched to fight in the Trojan War. In the fourth line, Poe mentions a weary, wayworn wanderer. Helen's beauty is like the relief and appreciation that this wanderer would feel when returning home after a while of being on the sea. The weary, wayworn wanderer may refer to Odysseus, who after the Trojan War was over, made the long and eventful journey back to his home native shore. Or this may refer to any such wanderer traveling across the oceans in classical times. Stanza 2. On desperate seas long wont to roam, thy hyacinth hair, thy classic face, thy Naiad airs have brought me home to the glory that was Greece and the grandeur that was Rome. Poe starts off here with a personification by describing the sea as desperate. This gives it the features of reckless, dangerous, and hopeless. Next, he uses imagery, the hyacinth hair, the classic face. By writing hyacinth, he is using imagery to help the reader picture the hair is dark and curly. Next, he uses an allusion, Naiad. Naiad is an allusion to a nymph-like creature. And lastly, he uses a metaphor and compares Helen of Troy, or Jane Stannard, to the glory that was Greece and the grandeur that was Rome. The connotative meaning behind stanza 2. Hyacinthine hair is used by poets to describe curly hair that resembles the curled petals of the hyacinth flowers. The term could also be descriptive of the color of hair, either dark, black, or deep violet. Her classic face reinforces the sense of her classical beauty. The Naiad airs suggest that Helen is nymph-like. She has the airs and mannerisms of a sea-dwelling nymph. This is a beautiful and magical, although not divine, being that lives near a body of water. In the second stanza of To Helen, the poet uses several more references to Greek and Roman mythology. He is romanticizing the past and making it seem more beautiful and ideal than it likely was. He compares her beauty to the glory that was Greece and the grandeur that was Rome. Her beauty, which has guided the wanderer through the roaming seas, has brought him home. Her hair and face were the guides. Third and final stanza of To Helen. Lo, in yon brilliant window niche, how statue-like I see thee stand, the agate lamp within thy hand. Ah, Psyche, from the regions which are Holy Land. Right off the bat, Poe uses an automatopoeia using the sound lo. Next, brilliant window niche is an example of a connotation because the word brilliant adds extra meaning to the window niche. Statue-like is an example of imagery because it helps the reader picture the way that she was standing like a statue. An allusion to Psyche. Psyche is a beautiful woman that was struck by Cupid's arrow to fall in love with a bull. Regions which are holy land is a metaphor, meaning that she comes from a place that is out of this world. And lastly, Poe ends with an end stop, cutting the line short with an exclamation mark. Connotative meaning in the third and final stanza. In the third and final stanza of To Helen, the speaker begins with an exclamation. He draws the reader's attention to the brilliant window niche, where he can see Helen stand. She is as still as a statue, holding an agate lamp in her hand. This is a kind of stone which light is reflected through. She embodies light and warmth, providing him with a destination to aim for. He is astonished by her beauty at this moment. In the last two lines, he speaks about Psyche, a beautiful mortal woman who is shot with one of Cupid's arrows and made to fall in love with a bull. The speaker is clearly in love with this woman, therefore he is casting himself as another character in this story, Cupid. And lastly, she is from regions which are our holy land. She is divine, originating from another world that he is close to but he cannot reach. And lastly, works cited.